One of the things that grieves me the most about racial tension in America is that where there wasn't tension, where there where there was harmony before, now suddenly you're wondering about everybody. How are you looking at me? How am I looking at you? What are you thinking? What am I thinking? In other words, that race becomes an issue where it wasn't an issue. Now, there is no question that in many places in America, race still is an issue. I'm not denying that. And where race is an issue and when there is unequal treatment because of race, where that's genuinely happening, we need to address it. But for the most part, most of us have gotten along pretty well across racial lines, ethnic lines. For the most part, we're happy to be in integrated settings and have friends that are from different races and different ethnicities. We work together in settings like that. I know not universally across America. Again, I'm not downplaying where racism does exist. But for the most part, I don't believe in our day-to-day interactions that we are deeply racist. So maybe I'm projecting from my own heart, my own relations, and the people that I know and work with. But I was in the grocery store the other day, and suddenly I was just struck. It didn't overwhelm me to the point of I had to run out of the building and get on my face and weep, but I was just struck with this realization and with this pain. This one race, I mean, diverse, with all kinds of distinctives and backgrounds and cultures, and as I've traveled the world, that's one of the things I love most, is being around believers from all different backgrounds and being in different cultures. And yeah, I don't understand the language and don't know a lot of what's going on, but just that's part of the beauty and power of it. It's amazing for me to see and experience, and very humbling. And you go in there as an American, not to teach everybody, look at what we're doing in great America, but to serve and to honor. And I just was so struck by it as I looked around the grocery and the gals that were helping as I was checking out. And I was just thinking, we're one human race. We're one people. Look at what Paul said in Acts, the 17th chapter. Paul is in Athens. He's on Mars Hill. And he stands in the middle of the Areopagus and says, "Men of Athens, I see that in all ways you're very religious. For while I was passing through and observing the objects of your worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' Therefore, what you worship without knowing, this I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by hands, nor is he served by human hands as if he needed anything, since he himself gives to everyone life and breath and all things. From one person, from Adam, from one he made every nation of men to live on the face of the earth, having set appointed times in the boundaries of their territory. They were to search for him and perhaps grope around for him and find him, yet he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being," actually quoting from pagan poets as he's speaking there. But notice that from one he made every nation of men to live on the face of the earth. In a very deep and real way, it's not just trite to say there's one race, the human race. It is truth. It is reality. We are a different species. We alone of all God's creation are created in his image. We alone have capacities and abilities that the rest of the created world does not have, the animal world and everything else. Even the lofty angels, as unique as they are, do not have the unique status that we do, because Jesus died for us. The Son of God came into this world as a human being for us. And we are fundamentally one race. We have different colors. We have different backgrounds. We have different customs. But what joins us together is infinitely more than what divides us. Look at what Paul wrote in Colossians, the 3rd chapter. He's talking about pulling down carnal, fleshly strongholds in our lives. And then he says this, "Here in the body, among God's people, there is no longer Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, savage, slave and free, but Messiah is all and in all." I mean, this is a radical statement. I mean, the divisions between Greeks and Jews, between the civilized and the uncivilized, between slave and free. Massive divisions. Paul saying, in Jesus, we're one. And then look at what he writes in Galatians 3. This passage even better known than the one in Colossians 3. Galatians 3, 28, 29, there is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is neither male nor female. For you are all one in Messiah Jesus. And if you belong to Messiah, then you are Abraham's seed, heirs according to the promise. I've been in India and been involved with friends where their wedding was very controversial because it was the child of an untouchable family marrying the child of a high caste family. It's unthinkable. And yet in Jesus, they came together as one. I remember reading an account of a famous Russian professor who was an atheist. So he was a white atheist professor at a prestigious university, and he would get his shoes shined periodically by an uneducated black man that just worked the streets, and that's how he made his living, shining shoes. And at one point, this atheistic professor asks him, why is it that you have such joy in your life? Because this guy did not have it, didn't have a sense of purpose and destiny. And the shoe shine man tells him it's because of Jesus and shares the gospel with him, leading to this Russian atheist's salvation. You think, isn't that amazing? The lowly black man leads the exalted white man to salvation. The uneducated brings the message of salvation to the educated, and then in Jesus, they become equal brothers, except the professor will be discipled by the shoe shine guy. The barriers are broken down. Let me say this again. This is not an excuse to ignore racism where it does exist. This is not an excuse to stop us from confronting injustice. But it is to say that when we keep making race the issue, race the issue, race the issue, race the issue, now we create a bigger problem. What we need to do is emphasize our common humanity. What we need to do is emphasize our uniqueness as created in God's image. What we need to do is cultivate unity within the body and intentionally cross ethnic and racial lines to work together and show solidarity as one and honor one another and serve one another and set an example for a watching world. That's what we need to do. If everything we look at is race, 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 then we're going to create more racial tension. If what we do instead is honor one another, serve one another, love one another, bless one another, and celebrate our differences and celebrate our diversity, and say, hey, wow, you're into this, I'm into this. Boy, in my culture, that is so different than yours. And you're amazed by the diversity and the beauty of it. And you don't have to make everybody the same. You can have your different tastes and your different styles. You know, look, as I've traveled the world with, just counted the other day, because I knew it roughly in my head, but like 160-something overseas trips, and then total times out of the U.S., like Canada, Mexico, you added maybe a couple hundred times. But I've been in a lot of different cultures. I remember one time in India being out in a village in a hut and thinking, I've seen National Geographic shows, documentaries about this kind of, it just was so far out. And yet we begin to open the Word and the Holy Spirit begins to move, and you just have that commonality in the Lord. Even when you can't speak the language, that deep sense of commonality. And then you realize, hey, it's not just the way we do it in America. I was speaking at a famous, one of the most famous black megachurches in America some years ago. And it was a Sunday morning. And I have never in my life seen outfits and hats like that. I was like, whoa. And it was part of the culture, and it was dressing up for the Lord. I'm sure you have someone that's carnal, just like someone comes in another setting and it's, the more casual you look, the more spiritual you are. You get carnality there, but I was just different. And I've been in plenty of black gospel churches over the years, plenty. And always had a special appreciation, kind of just for whatever reason, as a Jew, feeling a commonality with my black friends because of being minorities that were persecuted and hated and enslaved and all of this. And then as a drummer, clapping on the upbeat, I enjoyed that. It's kind of felt like a certain soul connection for whatever it's worth. But I thought, whoa, I've never seen anything like this. And I sat and enjoyed the difference in culture. And I was in another prestigious Black megachurch, and fine pastor, wonderful man of God. And before I preached, the choir did a special song, and one sister, boy, did she belt it out. I mean, it's one of those things you're waiting for your eyeglasses to shatter with these notes. And I got up, I said, they don't hit notes like that in the white church. I mean, we laughed. It's like, there's diversity. We're different. We do things differently. But we're one in the Lord. So let me say it once more. This is not trying to blur things. Now you're just trying to blur everything over to ignore real issues. No. Let's focus on the issues that are there. But let's not make race the issue all the time. Let's cultivate our unity. Let's celebrate our distinctives. Let's learn from each other. Let's honor each other. And then together, let's combat injustice. Together, let's expose racism. Together, with our diversity and different takes, even on politics and other things, let's stand together and say, Jesus is the one who unites us. God is the one who created us. We are one race, the human race. Let that be the reality. With that, we can really fight racism and injustice.